Hello, this is Arielle from Inconspicuous Bear, and I'll be narrating the heroic version of the Operator Thogar encounter in Blackrock Foundry from a Guardian point of view. Operator Thogar is a two-tank encounter that takes place inside what is basically a railway depot. So there's four sets of train tracks in the place in which you fight Thogar, and you'll have trains going back and forth throughout the entire encounter. This is on a predictable pattern, and for a general raid strategy, someone will just call out where to go, or you can set a timer and move based on a timer, however you want to do it. But there's a lot of movement involved, a lot of short movement involved, and some tank swaps. But in general, it's probably the best or most fun encounter in Blackrock Foundry, simply because it involves trains. In terms of abilities you have to worry about, Operator Thogar himself only has, well, and technically two, I guess, two abilities you need to pay attention to. The first is called Enkindle, which is basically a debuff that goes on the tank, and it inflicts fire damage, plus puts a dot on you, and you take more damage every time you get an additional stack. So it's 2 stacks is pretty trivial. Anything higher than that, you kind of need to pay attention. 3 can be dangerous. 4 plus is definitely requires significant attention from you and your healer in order to be able to handle. However, you will typically end up swapping on 2 stacks, so generally not something that really needs to be planned for. Thogar's second ability, which doesn't directly affect you, but is something you have to pay attention to, is called Prototype Pulse Grenade. Basically, there will be a blue patch of electricity on the ground, and you need to not stand in it, because you take damage. There's no real other thing to, say about that. It will be caused by, because he throws the grenades at range, it'll be caused by range standing near the tank, which can happen because typically for this fight, everyone will be stacked up for the most part, because ads will get stacked up, and everyone is moving within a line across 4 different train tracks, so that typically means people will be stacked in a tighter area than they would otherwise normally would be in an encounter area this size. The last thing you need to worry about isn't something that comes from the boss, but actually comes from some of the ads. So periodically throughout the fight, some ads will spawn, and you will either deal with it as an entire group, in which case they die pretty much instantly, or you'll deal with it when you do the splits, which happen. There will always be at least one split, typically only one split if your raid's DPS is good enough. If your raid's DPS is kind of bad, you could end up getting 2, but typically there will only be 1, and during that split there's a bunch of ads that will put a bleed on you, and it doesn't stack, but you can have multiple instances of the bleed up on you at any given point, and it's called Serrated Slash. It does some physical damage over time, and because it's a bleed, it bypasses armor and our mastery, so you need to pay attention to it, and if you get a lot of stacks on you, don't be afraid to pop Survival Instincts to make sure you don't, die, because it can add up when you get 10 or 12 of these things on you at once, so just pay attention. Talent choices are pretty much standard: Feline Swiftness, Snaring Ward, Soul of the Forest, Dream of Snarius, and Pulverize. You could make an argument for both Heart of the Wild and Guardian of the Loon in place of Dream of Snarius and Pulverize, respectively. GOE, because it will help with the only dangerous part of the fight from a tanking perspective, which is the split. And Heart of the Wild, because there's plenty of time where you actually don't have anything to do in this fight. And this amount of time will go up the better your raid's DPS is, so you can use it to basically just get into some free damage. So, it's generally not that hard of a fight anyway, so you can swap them in and out depending on what you want to do. But you definitely want to keep Feline Swiftness because it's all about just controlled movement from one place to another, and Snaring Ward and Soul of the Forest are pretty obvious. With the changes to Force Nature in 6.1, it may seem tempting, but the only mob that is actually even close to danger, only single mob that's close to dangerous, is the Man-at-Arms, and he dies virtually instantly now, so there's no point in having Force Nature for this encounter. It's interesting to note that this is one of those encounters where Glyph Survival Instincts is not really that great, and you would actually prefer to have it unglyphed. However, you still want to keep Stampeding Roar and Maul, for obvious reasons are obvious, so you can put pretty much anything in that third glyph spot other than Survival Instincts. You can go with Phase Silence, I guess, if you want, for an additional interrupt, but otherwise, you generally just don't want Glyphed SI on this fight, because the fact that Enkindle is pretty trivial to handle when you do it right, and there's no like burst damage that you need to worry about. It's more going to be sustained damage over a longer period of time, which is what Unglyphed SI is really good at handling. So just keep that in mind. This is also one of those fights where you'll probably notice Guardian's I don't want to say bad, but lackluster AoE compared to other tanks. I usually actually don't end up tanking pretty much any ad other than the split, because I tank with a monk and Ox Statue OP. So you won't really be tanking much other than the Thogar, the Man-at-Arms, and the split ads. You won't get a chance to have pretty much anything else. But, I mean, it doesn't stop you from doing damage. It's just something that you should expect while tanking this boss. I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck with Operator Thogar. Cannon, purple. It was fine.
Get ready for the split.
Just split now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're gonna probably have to roll CDs in Sunnier, so be aware of that.
Honor now. Trank this, please.
We can get a fox.
4, 3, 2.
Fox out.
Beware. Beware.
Hemming this one.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Wasn't on the